CrossFit, and today I'm going to talk about why I decided to become a coach. So this is a long timeline for this because fitness has been something that I've been interested in since I can remember. Basically, when I was maybe 4 or 5, I remember this college dude that lived in the apartment complex I lived in California that just chucked this pair of dumbbells, kind of yelled like, "Hey kid," and threw him off his porch and was like, "Hey, you can have those." And I remember, playing around with these dumbbells that had no clue what they were, but just being kind of interested in that. And, as I went on through my early education, I was always interested in sports and, how you get better at them. I really enjoyed the concept of being strong and figuring out ways to make myself stronger. And as I got older, really 12, 13, 14, I got really lucky, and I had a coach that put me into a position where I was able to learn from him about strength and conditioning. It was a really passionate thing for him, and so I was able to learn a lot of stuff from him, and I started to find my own books. I would read every Men's Health article I could find. I would buy every book on, training and programming that I could find, from a really young age. And actually, 15, 16, 17 was when I really first started actually kind of pseudo training other people, probably horribly, but, learning to write my first programs for people, basically learning how to plan to get people to achieve their goals, and testing and practicing what a lot of those basic skills of programming are. So as I got older and understood more about what I was actually doing, I started writing more and more of my own planning, more and more of my friends' planning. In college, I started working out with other people that challenged what I knew. And so when I turned 19, I decided I wanted to get my personal training certification and started studying for that specifically. I changed my major in college when I was 20 to pre-physical therapy from business. And so started taking, I switched my major to allied health, pre-physical therapy, and health science, which was kind of an exercise science. It's a pre-med kind of thing. But that put me into classes like anatomy and physiology and exercise physiology, motor learning and development, biomechanics, all these different classes that really let me take a much deeper look at human movement, why exercise is important. It's not just to get a six-pack, It's not just to have big biceps and look cool at the beach. Those things are important, but they're really not that big a part of what exercise science actually is. And it forced me to take a lot closer look at how this stuff works. So, all of these programs that I've been writing and workouts that I've been doing, why did those things work? What is actually happening with, certain types of planning that I was using? So got my personal training certification and realized that with the additional information I was learning in school and college, I had a lot more to offer than the average personal trainer did. And I, started looking more at physical therapy and kind of what the goal is there, and kind of realizing that a lot of physical therapy stops at active daily living, and that's great. But I was finding more and more that I was enjoying working with people that didn't need physical therapy, but weren't necessarily moving well either. So I became very passionate about helping people learn to move well and helping people understand what exercise actually is, what it actually means to them. It's, there's a lot of stigma coming out of the 60s, 70s, 80s, where fitness was basically synonymous with bodybuilding. It's like, how do you become one of these freaks on a stage that looks, crazy muscular, right? So 90s and 2000s, it started to become more of a comfortable, popular thing to do just because it was a healthy thing to do. And going into the 2010s and now 2020s, it's a much more widely accepted concept that exercise is something that we should all be doing. So I have now been certified doing this for almost 11 years, maybe 11 years. And obviously I've been involved since I was a lot younger. So I would say that, as far as like reading content and literature, I've been doing this for, about 15 years, maybe a little more. So it's been interesting from my perspective to watch how the narrative around fitness has changed since I first started really reading it, and has shifted focus to what I'm actually interested in, right? Like, how do you make people move better? What's the best way to go about doing that? And so I started doing CrossFit in 2000, and I want to say the first time I did CrossFit was like 2009, 2010. I started doing a few of their workouts, not really knowing what I was doing, and kind of looking at their programming, not really understanding it based on some of the things that I had learned before. And the way that my brain works, if I don't understand something, I work really hard to be able to understand it. So I spent a lot of time looking at really popular programming early on in CrossFit and dissecting it and trying to figure out why it was working relative to not only the principles that CrossFit was promoting, but exercise science. And what I wound up finding is that some people were doing it really well and some people were not. Some people were missing the forest through the trees. I think all of us have some kind of somebody that's told them that, some CrossFit workouts are random. Well, there certainly are places where that happens, but a lot of times CrossFit programming is very well written. It just takes a little bit of a deeper understanding of what's actually going on to look at it with a dissecting eye and figure out why. So one of the other things that really stuck out to me about CrossFit is the focus on functional movement. So basically the focus on how should we be teaching people how to move and why. So of course, these were all things that, 2009 through 2011, I was getting increasingly interested in the more that I had continued to personal train people and teach classes, and be in classes, taking things like exercise science, working in an exercise science lab, figuring out why humans get better at moving and what is healthy versus not healthy about exercise, and also the nutrition side of things. I had 2 college level nutrition courses that I took, and understanding why those things play in, how the chemistry of the human body works and actually improves when we exercise and eat better. So all of those things kind of continually progressed and accumulated, and I got deeper and deeper into my own personal training and coaching career. And in 2013, I believe, I started to work towards opening up Full Steam CrossFit with Tim Capps. And I had already been running the corporate wellness program over at McKee Foods, and that was becoming a bigger thing. And so I started to refine my own methodology, dig into why I wanted to program things the way I wanted to program, how I wanted to scale for people, how I wanted to teach people movement. Got my CrossFit Level 1 certification, 2014, opened up Full Steam CrossFit. All those different things started to pile up on top of one another. And just since then, over the years, I've dug more and more into figuring out how to refine the way that I teach, teaching other people how to teach the way that I teach, and getting them to understand the principles behind what it is that we do, to kind of start making their own decisions on how they teach based on a set of tried and true science-backed principles. What my passion in coaching has begun to evolve into is how do I actually teach other coaches better, right? But anyways, that's a little bit of a backstory on my coaching journey and where it's come to now. I just thought it would be cool to share that with you guys. Anyways, talk to you soon. Bye.